The fifth Zimbabwe Financial Markets Indaba took place in Johannesburg yesterday. The summit hoped to attract increased investments into the country to prop up its ailing economy. I caught up with Zimbabwe's Deputy Finance and Economic Development Minister, Terence Mukupe, and asked what the new government had done to create an enabling environment for business to be secure enough to part with its cash.
If you notice in the past dispensation, with an environment which was really not conducive for business, and there are some policies that we had put in place which were not attractive enough for anyone to be able to come to Zimbabwe. But what we've said is that there are certain basic fundamentals that we have to start recognizing as a country. Chief amongst this is that we have to be a respecter of the laws. We have to make sure that if you're coming to Zimbabwe, you must feel that your investment is going to be secure. And also as a government, we feel that we have to listen to people. My president always says that the voice of the people is the voice of God. So when the people speak and when investors speak, we should be able to listen and implement whatever it is that they want us to implement. So that's why we say that Zimbabwe is now open for business.
I mean, it's just been a couple of months since the previous dispensation, so I'm sure you can understand how many are still very cautious about what exactly has changed in Zimbabwe. Perhaps you can elaborate that, particularly on some of the contentious policies that were essentially scaring many investors away.
Cautious, I wouldn't say they're cautious. If you actually find one of the most expensive airplane tickets in Africa right now is a flight between Joburg and Harare. Those flights are full to the brim. So there's actually a rush of people coming into Zimbabwe. But when it comes to the contentious laws, you'll find that the most controversial of them was the indigenization law, which forced foreign investors to partner with a local investor, with locals having 51%. And what we've done is that we've largely done away with most of the sections of that indigenization law. That 5149 only now applies to 3 areas. If you're going to come and mine diamonds in our country, it has to be a 5149. If you're going to mine platinum, it's a 5149. But any other mineral in Zimbabwe, you can own 100%. We've got the second largest deposits of chrome in the world, which are probably the best in the world in terms of chrome content. Second largest lithium deposits in the world. You can come and own those 100%. And then there's what we call the reserve sectors. So the reserve sectors are only for Zimbabweans. So you can't come as a foreign investor and say that you want to open a hairdressing salon. Leave that for the small mom and pop type of shops. You can't really open a spaza shop, a tuck shop, a small neighborhood grocery store. We're saying those sort of things are for local business people. But any other area in Zimbabwe, you can come in, you own 100%, you enjoy your profits, you take all your profits to your country of origin.
I mean, talking about platinum, I see government is looking at a possible 15% tax on platinum miners that actually don't set up, processing plants or refining plants in Zimbabwe. That a headline emerged yesterday. Perhaps if you can just elaborate on that.
I mean, there's been a long-held conversation between the platinum producers and the Zimbabwean government that, there's sufficient produce that's coming out of Zimbabwe in terms of platinum. And there was always the accusations that, when we're having the platinum mate leaving the country and coming to South Africa, as government, we felt that we were not really trusting some of the numbers that were being put across as being what were the components of that mate. So we're saying that in line with our mantra that let's beneficiate where we can beneficiate. There's nothing that's stopping the platinum miners from setting up a refinery. And so we're trying to nudge them to say look, set up a refinery in the country so that we know exactly what it is that we're producing when it comes to all the platinum mate that's being produced. And mind you, the platinum industry in Zimbabwe is a $1 billion industry. When you look at the revenues that they're generating over $1.3 billion annually. And when you look at there's about 3 new platinum operations that are coming in, where over $2 billion of worth of investment has been put in. So the platinum industry is going to become a $3-4 billion industry. And we can't continue exporting the mate. We're saying that there's sufficient capital within that industry to be able to justify and put up a refinery.
Right, so Minister, you're also looking up to prop up the agricultural sector, perhaps bringing Zimbabwe back to that breadbasket status that it was once known for. I mean, how exactly is that going to work? And I ask this particularly because of some of those contentious laws that chased many farmers away and that resulted in a lot of land, going to waste. So how exactly is the agricultural policy or the agricultural strategy going to work?
The first thing that my president, Emerson Mnangagwa, did was that he announced that we're going to respect all the BIPA agreements and we're going to compensate all the former white farmers that were dispossessed of the land. And the compensation is in as far as the improvements that were on the land. So we're going to recognize that and we're going to, make whatever payments that have to be made. Over and above that, my finance minister, Minister Chinamasa, who I deputize, basically announced that together with the discussions that we're having with the bankers, that the leases that we're giving the farmers who are on the land right now, they're going to become bankable. So it's going to become a proper title to the land. And the other thing that we've done is that all the existing white farmers that are on the land right now, there are no more land inversions. That's done. That era is gone. And so what we're encouraging is that like anyone who wants to come into farming, we still have some pieces of land where people that can be availed. And then we're also encouraging partnership, smart partnerships, JVs. And if you look at the tobacco sector, we are now operating at the same levels that the former white farmers were operating at. If you look at maize, we're operating at the same sort of. We've even surpassed what they used to produce. So now we're going into the special focus that we've got right now is not so much on the grains, because I think in terms of the grains we're doing equally as good as what we used to do historically. But the focus is now on horticulture. We are saying that like we should bring back the rose production up, macadamia nuts up, bananas, and all the various types of horticultural products. And you find like, that's where we are now putting most of our financial resources into as a government. We want to set up export processing zones on all those export crops because they have to start complementing what the tobacco industry is doing. And we've deliberately also started putting a lot of money into cotton because we used to be one of the premier producers of cotton on the continent. And we can see that like the growth rate in the cotton space has been phenomenal. And if anything, we believe that by next year we'll have gone back to the same production levels that we had historically.